Okay, good evening, folks. We're going to call to order our regular meeting of the Board of Directors of the Marin Water District. And for the evening of July 25th, can I get a roll call?
Good evening, Vice President Ranjiv Kush,
Here.
Director Matt Sampson,
Here.
Director Jed Smith,
Here.
Director Larry Russell,
Here.
and President Monty Schmidt.
Here. Okay, can I get a motion to adopt the agenda? So moved.
Second.
Are there any public comments on items on the agenda?
No, there are none.
Okay, could I get
Oh, I'm sorry. Someone just raised, Mr. Ed Jameson raised his hand. If you don't mind, I'd like to call on him and let him speak for items that are on the agenda. Go ahead, Mr. Jameson. Mr. Jameson?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, I have comments on something that is on the agenda, so I think now is not the time for me to be speaking. I'm sorry. Thanks.
All right,
Bye.
I apologize. Thank you. And we'll get to you when it comes up. Thank you.
Okay, then without a vote,
Vice President Kush,
Aye.
Director Russell,
Aye.
Director Sampson,
Aye.
Director Smith,
Aye.
and President Schmidt.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, I'm going to hand over our next item to Director Russell to provide a proclamation for community volunteer service to Annie Lazier.
She's just
She's in the bathroom, so
Okay,
why don't we go to the directors and general?
okay, well, let's go to public comments on items not on the agenda.
We have Mr. Clayton Smith. I've unmuted you, sir. So if you can go ahead and leave your comment.
Confirming my observations concerning the chemical aerosoling of the atmosphere I've been witnessing for the past several years, the Biden administration has just signed off on a plan put forward recently to saturate the upper atmosphere with aluminum oxide nanoparticles to dim and cool the planet by blocking sunlight. Sadly, the silvery tint to the previously clear blue sky we used to enjoy, which has come to dominate our skies, in my opinion, is confirmation that they have already been doing this for some time. Over time, these particles will fall back to Earth. Evidence of inordinate levels of aluminum oxide, along with barium and other toxic chemicals, was discovered in Shasta County subsequent to the initiation of atmospheric spraying there years ago. However, the global saturation being recommended now is at orders of magnitude beyond the current efforts at cloud seeding and experiments in atmospheric electromagnetics. Life is essentially electromagnetic phenomena. Combined with the thousands of communication satellites scheduled for deployment in the near future, this program portends a potentially disrupting paradigmatic shift for all living things on Earth. Outside of its impact on our health, however, another potential consequence of the spraying is its impact on fire mitigation. Aluminum nanoparticles are the key components of making the explosive thermite. Many in the geoengineering watch community suspect that the spraying in Canada that preceded the recent fires may have been the cause for the unexpectedly high temperatures accompanying those fires, as well as their sudden and explosive ignition everywhere, seemingly all at once. Given the Fed's continuing spraying of our skies, we need to analyze our soil, water, and foliage for evidence of aluminum contamination. We need to be continually mindful of the potential consequences of this latest manifestation of geoengineering and climatism. Turning the world into a veritable tinderbox puts all of our lives in danger. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. I have no further speakers.
Okay, with that, I'll pivot back to Director Russell.
Great. Well, I just want to say welcome, Annie, and thank you for everything you've done. Not yet. Let me read the proclamation first, then you can speak. It's so good to see you. It's been a long journey through COVID and not seeing folks and Zoom and whatnot. So it's very nice to see you in person, and thank you for taking the time. With that said, I'm going to read the proclamation of appreciation for Annie Laser. Whereas Marin Water wishes to recognize Ann Laser for her dedicated service to the district and the Marin County community, and whereas Ann moved with her husband Bob and their 3 children to Mill Valley in 1967, and whereas Ann became a valuable member of the Mill Valley community focusing on public education, and whereas in the 1970s she became involved in the Marin League of Women Voters and devoted over 5 decades of community and political involvement, and whereas Ann served as the League's voter service coordinator for 45 years, running candidate debates and managing voter registration drives, among other activities. And whereas Ann is widely known and deeply respected for her remarkable commitment to making democracy functional and effective. And whereas Ann loved the natural beauty of her adopted home in the Marin County and worked to preserve the area's ecological integrity. Whereas Ann served as the vice chair of 3 separate Marin Water Rate Advisory Committees in 1993, 2003, 2011 to 12, and was a major contributor to the district's water rate restructuring efforts. And whereas Ann attended countless Marin Water Board and committee meetings over the years, provided valuable input of important Marin water initiatives. And whereas Ann was an effective advocate and always respectful while conveying her interest in transparent, fair, and accountable government. And whereas Ann was willing to suffer fools gladly, but had little patience for bullies. And whereas Annie, it's hard for me to say Ann, I've known you as Annie my entire life. Whereas Ann Laser's intelligence, insights, charm, and kindness enriched Marin County for decades, and she will be much missed as she prepares to move back east to be with family. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Marin Water hereby wishes to express its sincere appreciation to Annie Laser on this day, July 25, 2023, for her extraordinary contributions to the water district, to its ratepayers, and to the cause of local democracy, and wishes her happiness and great joy always. And Annie, you've meant a great deal to me personally. You may not remember this, but when I took the oath of office one of the times, you came up to me and said, you advised me that I might not jump into that pool so quickly to agree to support the Constitution of California because it was such a volatile document. That has stuck with me since the beginning. And I really don't know what to say. You have been such an important individual here in the Water District, and it's fortunate that our new board members have a chance to meet you, although it may not be too long of a chance, but at least it'll be here. And we appreciate you taking the time and coming to say hello and goodbye at the same time.
My talk is going to be a little shorter because you've already told some of the things that are in there.
But
But that's all right.
It's great.
I start by saying that my relationship with the MMWD started with the League of Women Voters, going to meetings and serving on committees and reporting back to the League of Women Voters and putting the news in our newsletter. It was helpful to my garden, which I called my mental health program, and became aware of other organizations in Marin as climate became more and more important in our minds and better informed. It could be comforting to understand better what was happening in our area and others. I have to remind myself about what we called unleague-like behavior. And my husband had other ideas about how to solve water supply problems like desalination and consolidation of districts, which he still believes.
They're still on the table, Annie.
When we did candidate forums, my attending these meetings made me compose better questions to ask the candidates. The last part of my relation to the district one was as co-chair to the Water Rate Study Committee. It didn't go well from the beginning. The Liberals and the Conservatives didn't work well together, surprise. And members who lived in hotter parts of the county didn't like it that their bills were higher because of the heat, and we should give them a discount because of that. And then the board fired the general manager on a 3-2 vote, causing chaos within the staff and the League of Women Voters. And the committee began to lose its members. They began to drop off as the study sort of went along, but didn't over much shorter time. I was a failure. Now Bob and I are going back to Boston and Cambridge to Lexington, a good place for a girl who majored in American government to live in. It was I understood how it was being on the board of an organization like this. I was too cowardly to ever run for office. I merely took care of the candidates who did. So going back to Boston and Lexington is good history for the girl who majored in American history in college. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Annie. You know that Durgan Park is closed. Amazingly, you know that Durgan Park has closed, the restaurant?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Faneuil Hall's still there, but Durgan Park is gone. Are there folks in the audience that'd like to speak? I know Cynthia's here to say something, or you have cards.
I have cards ready to
Perfect.
go. Miss Dee Dee Vittori, Sheila Mahoney, and then former director Cynthia Kohler. Oh, okay.
You are an inspiration. I'm Dee Dee Vittori. I'm vice president of the League of Women Voters in Marin County. And I probably met Annie about in 2017 when I came on the board. And she's an inspiration. The board, the league has always depended upon Annie's knowledge, not only what's going on with the water district, but just things in general that are very important to Marin County. If ever there was an issue that we had or something at the board meeting when we were stymied, well, let's ask Annie. What does Annie say about it? We're going to miss you, Annie. We're going to miss you a lot. But we know you're going back home to your beloved Boston and Lexington. So we wish you well. And thank you for being a member for over 50 years and your mother as well. And we're going to miss you a lot and all of your insight and guidance. Thank you, Annie.
Thank you, Dee Dee.
Sheila. And then Nona. No, I wrote it down. You're good. Oh, okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Annie, it's hard for me to follow your act.
Good evening. My name is Sheila Mahoney. I've owned a triplex in Corte Madera since the 1970s. The raw land on the lot has always been vacant. So when the conversation began about the lack of housing and the city's desire to add more ADUs, I decided to explore my options to help the community. I am not a developer. I do not have deep pockets, but 2.5 years ago, after careful thought and planning, I secured a HELOC loan and received project approval from the town. I'm sure you know that a home equity line carries a higher interest rate, especially now. Now, after all this time, 2.5 years, I have been told that I'm required to install new water meters for these 2 additional ADUs. The building permit was approved and reviewed by the town of Corte Madera 2.5 years ago, and at no point did they indicate we would need to install new meters. We requested a variance on 6/13 from MMWD and received no response. So that's the purpose of my being here this evening. This has become a highly stressful financial situation, adding a substantial funds and requiring me to proceed with significant funds. In addition, I cannot move forward and obtain a certificate of occupancy until this is resolved. It is also important for you to know that over 30 years, my triplex has only had 1 water meter. Like many other old multi-unit buildings, the water is not separate. I absorb the cost of water for all 3 units, and I do not charge the tenants. It was only within the last 2 months that MMWD informed me that I am required to install the new meters. The late action is not consistent with the original discussion I had with Corte Madera. The permit was predicated on using the existing meter, and my decision was based on this. The total cost for the 2 meters, as stated in the water service packet, is $60,696. This amount includes the connection fee of $18,732. I am formally requesting the Board of Directors to issue an adjustment for the connection fees, which is $18,732. Thank you for listening to me, and I hope I can help. You can help me rectify this situation. Thank you.
Thank you.